So when I first heard that Dario Argento was bringing back Occhiali Neri, his Occhiali Neri project, which is Dark Glasses, which originally was announced 20 years ago or somewhere thereabouts. I think it was around the time of Sleepless and The Card Player that this project was sort of talked of. I think the mention of it is even in Alan Jones's book on Dario Argento, and then it went all nice and quiet. And I was thinking, is this really going to happen? Is Dario Argento going to make a new feature film? Is he going to try and cap Dracula 3D? And now there is some first image published, and that now we know that there is a pretty good distributor who's picked up this project, and it looks like a pretty solid production. So I'm both puzzled and intrigued by this announcement. So I looked into who's behind this project, behind Dark Glasses, and surprisingly, these are familiar faces. One of the films, from the Italian side, one of the film's producers is Conchita Airoldi, who you might have known as the actor. She was in a couple of Sergio Martino films. She was, for example, in Torso, and she later went on to appear in a couple of films for Nanni Moretti as well, before moving on to production, moving on behind the camera. And I congratulate all the actors who have managed to stay in the industry even though they move on away from acting in front of the camera. That's a very wise move, I think, and the great example is Edwige Fenech, who did this very well. So we have Conchita Airoldi, and there is also Laurentina Guidotti, who also is an alumni of some Italian horror movies. She was in Spectres with Donald Pleasence, which is a fairly obscure horror film from the 1980s. And she was also in an Umberto Lenzi film, one of his lesser known movies. It's part of the Houses of Doom series. La Casa delle Anime Erranti. It's called House of Lost Souls in English, and she had a part in that. And she also moved on to becoming a film producer. And I think it's a really interesting connection, having these actors who kind of graduate from Italian horror, from acting in Italian horror, to producing a Dario Argento movie in the 21st century. That sounds at the very least fascinating. And thinking of how Dario Argento's recent movies, his last 2 or 3 movies date back to over 10 years now. They've been none of those films really set the box office on fire, let's be frank. They were released, but I don't think any of them made much of a profit. So my guess would be, I don't have any insider information on Dark Glasses. My guess would be is that it's going to be a scaled down project. It's not going to be as epic. So I wouldn't expect Inferno 2 here or anything, with like epic crane shots or anything. My guess would be it's going to be a little bit scaled down, but hopefully with a stronger focus on mystery and moving away from just the fun but trashy mindless slaughter which Mother of Tears and Dracula 3D were offering. I would like to think that we're going once again in the direction of a traditional giallo, which is first and foremost a murder mystery and not as much of a splatter phenomenon. As an admirer of Dario Argento's cinema, I've obviously had my share of frustration with his more recent projects, which have been anything but atmospheric or particularly successful when it comes to telling a good story. They were good at spilling blood and offering some outrageous situations, but let's face it, these films have been far from masterful. And when it comes to this new film, to this Dark Glasses, I obviously also have my misgivings, and by that I don't really mean fear that this film is going to be terrible. Somehow I'm oddly convinced that nothing can top Dracula 3D, and that Dark Glasses is going to be more on the decent side in every respect. First, because it's announced as a traditional giallo, and because Dario Argento had plenty of time to put this one together, considering all the COVID-imposed delays. So he had the time to formulate and reformulate his ideas, which should be good. My misgivings concern the story. From what I gathered, it's a story of a sex worker, of a woman who works high-class hotels in Rome. Knowing portrayals of prostitutes and sex workers in Dario Argento's previous films, and knowing how two-dimensional and crude they came across in such films as the Stendhal Syndrome or Sleepless, I'm worried that maybe making a character like this into the protagonist might not be so great unless there is a new well of compassion and a new level of understanding what sex work entails and what real sex workers are, not comic book hookers from B movies. Because making your main character a prostitute, it means you're going to have a walking cliche, probably very hard to identify with. But we'll see. These are just my personal misgivings. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch and definitely gonna buy a copy of Dark Glasses as soon as I can, when it eventually is released and made available to us fans, because coming from a filmmaker who's 81 years old, some filmmakers get more interesting with age. For example, Jess Franco, Jean-Luc Godard, Raul Ruiz, those filmmakers made more interesting films, not necessarily more entertaining, but more interesting films in their later years, where they went more outrageous or in some ways more freestyle and some people say self-indulgent. So really excited, and I'd love to know more. I hope there is going to be some more information leaked soon, and the fact that Asia Argento has a supporting part is also obviously some fans are just going to come and watch another pairing of Dario Argento and Asia Argento. So yeah, I'm quite intrigued about this. This could be terrifyingly bad, or this could be hopefully something, a sign of a renaissance, a recovery, maybe regaining some of the old magic. And I'm really happy to see that the story is set in Rome and around Rome, because this is Dario Argento's home turf. He is a Roman, and it's good that he keeps it local this time. And we are just so lucky that a COVID thing didn't completely kill this project, which I have feared, to be honest with you. I thought this was going to be buried and never resurface. And that it's completed now and release is imminent. I think I'm not the only one among horror fans and film fans who is really excited, even with some reservations perhaps, but really looking forward to watching Dark Glasses, Occhiali Neri.